Hi everyone, Aidan here at etrailer. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Benton Shifts&Grins 2-bike platform rack, and we're going to see how it fits on the back of our 2020 Hyundai Palisade. Now, with this being a platform rack, it's something that I would recommend for a lot of people because it's generally easier to load and more accommodating to different types of bikes. And this one is no different. It's going to be a bit lower to the ground, so not lifting as high, and because of the front wheel hook here, it's going to work for things like alternative frame and carbon frame bikes, or even just a bike with a nice paint job where you don't want hooks touching that frame. Add on to that, you've got a 55-pound weight capacity, so good for some heavier bikes and maybe even some e-bikes. I just checked the weight since the average for most e-bikes is around 60 pounds. Just remove that battery and double check how heavy it's going to be so you don't overload the rack. But that's going to be your capacity for both trays. Now, this also has the ability to upgrade to a 4-bike rack and convert between the two really quickly and easily, which is something that some bike racks do. They offer expansion kits, but this one is a real feature because it can be done so quickly between the two. So if you are checking this out with the thought that maybe down the road your family will expand, you're maybe going to add some kids' bikes on or anything like that, this could be a really good option for you, especially if you're not quite there yet and you're just thinking that it'll be a couple years from now. Like many other platform racks though, it has the ability to tilt away with the bikes loaded. This button at the back is really easy to access and easy to press. And once we do press it, we just tilt the rack down, and it gives us plenty of room on our Palisade today to open up that back hatch and gain access to the cargo area. Whether we've got a helmet, air pump, or a change of shoes we need to grab out of here, or you're just looking for a place to sit down and change those shoes, maybe have a snack before or after your ride, you can do that and you don't have to sacrifice this feature of your vehicle. For me, I always use the tilting function on my bike rack whenever I'm going to the grocery store after work, because I typically always leave my bike rack in the hitch and I want it to be out of the way when I need to use my vehicle. When you're done though, just push it back up into place, you'll hear a click, and you'll be ready to go and drive again. To get the bike unloaded though, we're going to start down at the bottom where we've got wheel straps. Just press the button, pull that ratcheting strap out, and rotate it off to the side so it's out of your way. These are just going to be secondary points of contact, and since they're not holding the bike fully upright, they're just there for extra support, we want to do those first. The hook is going to be your primary support, and you just want to press this button to release the ratcheting arm, and you can push up and out. I had that down pretty tight, so it's a bit stiff, but if we need to, we could fully remove it from that arm or just swing it out of the way, fully released like that. And there, we can just lift the bike up and away. And because there's no center mass or anything in our way, we can really get right up to it and we don't have any obstructions when loading or unloading. But with those bikes unloaded, let's get a few measurements. Starting off with our ground clearance. The lowest point at the back end of the rack is about 17.5 inches from the ground. With this just being a 2-bike rack in this configuration, I'd say you're probably okay for most steep driveways and hills, and you shouldn't have to worry about bottoming out thanks to the rise in the shank. But from the bumper to the furthest point out, we're looking at 31 inches. So it does add a fair amount of length, but for a 2-bike rack, I'd say 31 inches is pretty standard, around that mark anyway. If we want to leave it in the hitch between rides though, we can fold it upright by pushing that same button we did before and bringing it to a more compact stored position, where now it only sticks out about 18 inches, maybe a little bit under, from the back bumper. So it makes it a lot easier to drive around with and park with. And one thing I really like is that when it's folded up, you're not really blocking much on the back. Your license plate and backup camera are going to be unobstructed, though you will probably see the bike rack in the backup camera a fair bit. It's not going to be fully blocking it. And your taillights are well within the outer ranges of this, so they're not going to be blocked either. One area I just would watch for is your backup sensors. When you put it in reverse, you likely will hear some beeping because of that, so if it bothers you, you can always go into your menu settings and typically turn those off. At the hitch, we can see this is working with our 2-inch by 2-inch receiver tube here, and it comes with an anti-rattle bolt that'll keep things solid and secure in the hitch. This portion on the outside is going to be a hitch pin alignment collar. You'll just push this in until it hits the edge of your receiver tube and tighten it down during your first time setup. And then every subsequent time we take this out of the hitch and put it back in, it's going to hit that stopper, and that hitch pin hole will be aligned on the first try. It's really helpful for this, especially if you do plan on converting it to a 4-bike down the road, because it's only going to get heavier once you start adding more weight to it. And speeding up that setup process means you've got more energy for your ride. But overall, I really like this bike rack, especially in the 2-bike configuration here. I like it a little less as a 4-bike rack personally, just because I think it does get a little bit wobbly at the back end, just because it is so quick and easy to attach the two halves. I think it's also not going to be as solid. So if you're looking for a dedicated 4-bike rack, I'd recommend looking into an option like the Hollywood Rack's Destination 4-bike rack. It'll be a little bit lower of a weight capacity, but it's going to be a pretty solid option. But if you are just looking for primarily the 2-bike version and you just want the idea of being able to convert to a 4-bike rack down the road when needed, then this really is one of a kind, because while other racks have that option for a 2-bike add-on, none of them make it as easy to swap back and forth between the two options. Most of those kits are, you add it on, you install it, and now it's a 4-bike rack and it just stays that way. Whereas this, in my opinion, it's a 2-bike rack first, and in this configuration especially, it's going to work really well on the back of our 2020 Hyundai Palisade. My name's Aidan, and thank you for watching.